Welcome to Pipes and Proverbs. This is a place where we slow down, light a pipe or cigar, and spend time with Scripture, specifically the Book of Proverbs. This isn't a sermon, and it's not a lecture. It's a conversation about wisdom, discipline, and how we live as men in the real world. Whether you're smoking along with us or just listening in, we're glad you're here. Tonight, we're starting where Proverbs starts, chapter 1. But before we begin, it's important to go back and look at the history. Proverbs is about Solomon, and to understand the context of Proverbs, we have to understand who was Solomon. Solomon was the son of King David. You know, that little kid who slayed the giant with a sling and a stone. When Solomon became king, God appeared to him and asked him what he wanted. Solomon didn't ask for wealth. He didn't ask for power or a long life. He asked for one thing: wisdom, the ability to govern God's people well. Scripture tells us God was pleased with that request, and Solomon became known as the wisest man of his time. But here's what makes Proverbs especially powerful: Solomon knew wisdom and he knew failure. He knew great success, great wealth, and later, great compromise. When Solomon speaks about wisdom, temptation, discipline, and consequences, he's not speaking as if he got everything right. He's speaking as someone who learned the hard way. That gives Proverbs weight, and it's something that applies to all men. This wisdom is forged through obedience and regret. One thing for us to think about: how does it change the way that you hear Proverbs, knowing it comes from a man who experienced both wisdom and failure? So, why Proverbs? And why chapter 1? Proverbs is about how life tends to work when God's order is respected, and what happens when it isn't. Proverbs addresses everyday life, decisions, relationships, finances, discipline, and character. Chapter 1 is the foundation, and if you misunderstand chapter 1, you might misunderstand the rest of the book. Let's start with chapter 1, verses 1 through 7. This is the English Standard Version. The title is The Beginning of Knowledge. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel. To know wisdom and instruction, to understand words of insight, to receive instruction in wise dealing, in righteousness, justice, and equity, to give prudence to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the youth. Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance. To understand a proverb and a saying, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Right away, Proverbs gives away its purpose: wisdom, instruction, understanding, and discipline. Then, the last verse, verse 7, we hear this statement: the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. So, wisdom doesn't begin with intelligence, it begins with reverence, putting God in his proper place. So, let me ask you a question: where does your decision making actually begin? Reverence for God or something else? When you're looking at that new car, that shiny boat, maybe that Apple Watch, or maybe a fancy dinner, where do you decide? How? What drives you? Next, we're going to read chapters 8 through 19. And the title is The Enticement of Sinners. Hear, my son, your father's instruction, and forsake not your mother's teaching, for they are a graceful garland for your head, and pendants for your neck. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, "Come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without reason. Like Sheol, let us swallow them alive, and whole like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all precious goods. We shall fill our houses with plunder. Throw in your lot among us. We will all have one purse. My son, do not walk in the way with them. Hold back your foot from their paths. For their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. For in vain is a net spread in the sight of any bird. But these men lie in wait for their own blood. They set an ambush for their own lives. Such are the ways of everyone who is greedy for unjust gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. If it sounds as if this passage is a father talking to his son, that's exactly what it is. Solomon is passing on his wisdom to his sons. And the warning isn't about obvious evil, it's about enticement, shortcuts, easy gain, running with the wrong crowd, or even the in crowd. Wisdom often requires patience. It doesn't come quickly, and foolishness promises speed. A couple things to think about from verses 8 through 19. Where are you tempted to take shortcuts? Do you try to get ahead of the person in front of you in traffic just because they're moving a little slower than you are? Who has the loudest voice in your life right now? Is it God or is it the world? Are they pulling you towards wisdom or away from it? Now we'll look at verses 20 through 33. It's titled, The Call of Wisdom. Wisdom cries aloud in the street. In the markets, she raises her voice. At the head of the noisy streets, she cries out. At the entrance of the city gates, she speaks. How long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? How long will scoffers delight in their scoffing, and fools hate knowledge? If you turn at my reproof, behold, I will pour out my spirit to you. I will make my words known to you. Because I have called, and you refuse to listen. I have stretched out my hand, and no one has heeded. Because you have ignored all my counsel, and would have none of my reproof. I will also laugh at your calamity. I will mock when terror strikes you. When terror strikes you like a storm, and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you, then they will call upon me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but will not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, would have none of my counsel, and despised all my reproof. Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their way, and have their fill of their own devices. For the simple are killed by their turning away, and the complacency of fools destroys them. But whoever listens to me will dwell secure, and will be at ease without dread of disaster. So wisdom isn't hidden, it calls out openly, and wisdom is also not forced. It's there, you just have to listen and accept it. This passage reminds us that ignoring wisdom has consequences, not because God is cruel, but because reality has structure. When we reject wisdom and we make poor choices, we don't get to escape consequences, we inherit them. A few reflection questions from this passage. Where have you ignored wise counsel in the past? Were you told not to buy that car? Were you told to invest in your retirement? And now it's too late. You've missed out on a lot of benefits. What was the cost? Is wisdom calling you to change something right now? There is still time. It's not too late. So a few takeaways from the entire chapter 1. We learned that wisdom begins with the fear of the Lord. And I'm not talking fear of the Lord that you're going to be smited. God's not going to wipe you off the face of the earth. A fear of the Lord that's healthy. The voices that you listen to shape your direction. Surround yourself with people who are wise, making good decisions, who can speak wisdom into your life and give you healthy direction. Are you ready to respond to wisdom? Not just to be aware and understand that that might have been a good decision or that looks like the right thing. Respond to it. Own it. So, the challenge from this episode of Pipes and Proverbs, going over chapter 1, is for you to identify this month, this week, maybe today, maybe you already know, one area where you need to listen and act with wisdom. Thanks for joining us for the first episode of Pipes and Proverbs. Next time, we'll dive into Proverbs chapter 2, where wisdom is something to be searched for and pursued. Until then, slow down, seek wisdom, and walk well.